Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another action-packed impact review. Trying to sound like Howard Cosell. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Wide World of Sports. If no one knows who Howard Cosell is, go check the man out. Of course, if he's still alive right now, I believe he has been deceased for quite a while. But if he's still alive, he used to have the best commentary that existed. And I grew up with that. But let's get to this impact. What do we get in this impact? We got some really interesting twists and turns. So, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the X Division match that we got between Kenny King, Suicide, and the newly crowned Chris Sabin. Hail Sabin, but going up against Kenny King! Who's better than Kenny King? Nobody's better than Kenny King. But, on this day, in a three-way dance again, I'm saying this now, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to continue saying it from now on. I'm tired of seeing this triple threat X Division match. This is my frustration, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone through this. It's already proven now that even though it was a nice novelty at first, and then they threw the X-Cam in to try and make it more interesting, when you got a pig, even if you pretty it up with some makeup, it's still a pig. The triple threats don't work properly. And even though they're taken off TV for a while, every time you see the X Division shown, you're going to see a triple threat. As much as people like ROH, and I think the ones who talk about this more are more of an ROH fan than they are a TNA fan. They may like both companies, but they lean more towards ROH. So they would take this in more of an appreciation than a regular TNA fan. I'm sorry. I'm not an ROH fan. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm not saying they don't do good work over there. They really try to bring wrestling more than they do about storytelling or commentary. They try to make the wrestling the point of view than the storytelling. But this is not going to work in TNA all the time. Having this triple threat is not helping that division. Now, what did we get? We got a good match. And the person who won was not the Kenny King. It was Suicide. I was surprised to see Suicide win. And the reveal later in the night was a shock, and I'll explain that later. But this wasn't too bad. I kind of wish they had hyped this up for it. Gave these guys a, what's the right word to say? Oh yeah, promos for it. I didn't like that not even one word was mentioned on the last TNA review much. Except they were announcing they're going to have a match, I believe. Someone can tell me below that they didn't announce it. I know they did, but they didn't give them any promo time. Nothing for any one of these three. And I find that very bad. It sucked. So I'm moving on to the interesting part here. I wish to say before I do the Bound for Glory matches that what they showed for Rude, for Joe, for Magnus, and for Anderson, the way they did the video packages for it, I know that it wasn't them talking, but presenting them the way they did. I like the blind bit, how it opened up into blinds and then changed a little bit. I find that a much more interesting thing to see for competitors going into a series like this. I think WWE could take a little bit of an idea from this. The way they present their people, at least in this form for this series, is pretty good. If they continue doing it like this, it's actually good on the eyes. I don't mind it, at least for me personally. Tell me below how you feel seeing how Anderson was presented along with Joe. How the video was set up to look like blinds a little bit, folding off. I kind of enjoyed it. And since I brought them up, Joe and Anderson. I know this is at the end of the night and what happens at the end of the night. And I'm not bringing this in. I'm just talking about the match. The match itself was quite short. It wasn't very long. And Joe gets pretty much the choke on him. The rear naked choke for Joe is his standard. So this wasn't much of a different type of match. But I do have to say that what was presented in the part of the show, throughout the show and at the end for Joe, is very important. Like I said before, I didn't see TNA until at least near 2010. So I never got a chance to see the Main Event Mafia. Now I have, like I said, I tried to catch a couple of bits off of YouTube and a few other places, see if I can get a little idea what the Main Event Mafia was about. And what I understood was AJ Styles and Joe, before they broke away, they were the thorn in the side of the Main Event Mafia. They kept bothering the Main Event Mafia. They kept fighting against them. Joe fought against, at one point, I believe, was Booker T. King Booger. I always loved this King Booger bit. But you know what? Seeing Joe as the one, as the next member of the new Main Event Mafia is a good idea to do. Joe has always been a good wrestler and character. You know when Joe's out there, he's going to do business. So I'm actually very happy with the way they presented in the very beginning of the show, saying that they're going to, and Angle was with Sting, we're going to be bringing in someone new. The show is going to be different for us in the new Main Event Mafia. We are doing an entirely different thing, as the Sting was talking to the Angle. Seeing Joe in this, I believe will give them more valid, make them more valid. They needed someone young in this group, and I'm glad about it. So I'm going to move on from there to the next match, which was, reason I'm not really thinking that much about it, ladies and gentlemen. I'll put it to you like this. Magnus is being pushed. The reason it's kind of hard to bring this out, seeing what they were going to do with a Robert Roode, Bobby, seeing that the new Main Event Mafia may have been talking to him that he was going to join, which doesn't mean he may not join. What's good? The match itself wasn't that great. Even though it's good to see Magnus go over. But the thing that got me was Magnus didn't have any entrance music. And I thought, oh, Magnus is going to lose this. That's how they would usually do it in any company. But seeing Magnus win was actually quite a pleasant surprise. I expect Magnus to lose this, but he did win. He got 7 points. Joe got 10, but he got 7, which is not a bit of a problem. I think the reason I'm kind of feeling awkward about this is seeing that they're not doing enough in this respect for Magnus. If they're trying to slip him under the radar, I can understand this, and that would make it easier for me to digest this. That they had to make sure his music wasn't played, so Magnus would be slipped under the radar and no one would figure it out. But I have this feeling like they're going to be doing this to certain people throughout the entire series. That they're trying to slip people into this so they wouldn't be really figured out. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. But there is a point of how far you can take it. And I believe TNA is going to take that too far. They're not showing enough video package for these guys talking. Saying, I'm the one that's going to be doing Bound for Glory. I'm going to win this. Everybody else is going to go under. They're focusing so much on Aces and Eight, not a new Main Event Mafia. And also what just happened early in the night, what happened with Suicide, and I'll be getting to them in a minute. I just feel like these guys in the Bound for Glory are going to be basically forgotten. I know this could still be a way to slip them in without anyone noticing, so they could be really surprised. Basically, the fans could be surprised about this. But I have a very great concern that TNA is just leaving things out because they got too much on their plate and they don't know how to budget their time. So what comes next is, should I do this late? I think I'll do this later. Let's go to Velvet Sky and Mickie Jane. Now, I'm glad they did video packages on both, even though Velvet's was a bit old and Mickey's was old. I wasn't fond that they showed old packages when they could have had some new stuff going on. And they could have added it the week before. They could have used the old stuff last week, and they could have done this new stuff this week. The match wasn't that good. I'm going to say I like Mickie Jane's heel turn. I love that she's trying to be the nice girl when she's being totally sarcastic. And I'm enjoying her heel turn. But that match was not her best. I just didn't feel good with it. Didn't. Even though she won by submission and showing that Sky's knee is still not fully healed was good. But I felt the match could have been better. It just didn't feel very good for me personally. You tell me below if you thought the match was good or not. I feel it could have been a better match between the two. I do have to say that having a... Let me put it to you like this. Having Christy Hemme interview Velvet afterward and then hearing Velvet shattered saying that I'm heartbroken, I thought I was ready and I'm not, leaves a wide open berth of how long it'll be before she comes back and who's going to take her place. You could say that's not very good. And I could agree with you under the premise that if we have more people to work with, let Velvet go away for a couple of months and then come back. And then have her in a different type of mindset, something better, build her up. But here's what I believe is going to happen. The problem here is that you have no knockouts working. You got maybe 5. So if they send her away, it's only going to be for a week or 2. Then she's going to come back and then she's going to go back against Mickie Jane again. The reason I said it's going to be good is that in the meantime, they will probably bring in a Brooke, maybe. Maybe they'll bring in a Terrence. Let her have something new short term. So that's what I'm feeling. I know that's not good though. It isn't. I want that long term, but I'm looking in the perspective of how TNA has structured themselves. And TNA has not structured the knockouts. They have very few knockouts. Most of them are off doing photo shoots and movies and taking time off. So they don't have much to work with, and I'm just seeing it in the short term. It's not good, but that's what I got. Now, this is what I feel really bad about. Storm and Gunner. The gunning storm. Gunning the storm. The beer drinking and shooting the beer. I don't know. I can't think of any name for them. But seeing Storm and Gunner doing a segment, mostly Storm talking because he's a better talker than Gunner, fine. But what's not fine, the Jobbers Incarnate. I said this many months ago that sooner or later, Jesse Goddard and Robbie E were going to be teamed up together. Now, no one ever didn't disagree with me because they probably thought the same thing. And here you go. They have all the teams currently working in Bound for Glory. So they have no one for these guys to go up against. When I saw Robbie E, when I saw a Jesse Goddard and a Chavo in the backstage with Bully Ray, and I'll get to that later, I knew they had to be shown. And there they were. The bromance, if I'm pronouncing it right, is in full effect. What the fuck were they thinking when they said bromance? They are stretching this, ladies and gentlemen. It was bad enough Robbie E saying this train has sailed down the road was the most stupidest line. It wasn't good. But hearing the bromance and then the crowd getting into bromance, that compensated for a little bit. That was just some stupid shit. That was funny. But it's sad. Even the part about hearing Tara, who I realized seeing her there, she's now a manager now. She's not going to generally be with the Knockouts. That's the reason why she wasn't at the State of the Knockouts address. I realized seeing her there, that's her job right now. And I said in maybe my How to Rebuild the Knockouts, I'm not saying that I said that Tara would be a manager. I don't really remember. I probably might have said it or might have not. You can check for yourself. But seeing her as a manager is not that bad. You need to switch these women out. And hearing that she's going to be called Butterface now. Look, I've seen Victoria. I've seen Tara. I've always thought Tara has a nice body, nice butt, nice breasts. Her face isn't that bad for being a Turkish Puerto Rican. But I never considered her as a Butterface. Oh, that was harsh. I don't know if she is a Butterface. You guys tell me below, does she have a Butterface? I tried to consider her as a nice looking lady. She seems to be incredibly sweet and nice. But being called a Butterface, I was kind of surprised about. But this is what we're stuck with. We're now stuck with the bromance versus Gunner and Storm. Now I'm bringing in the next thing, which is Aces and Eights segment throughout the night was trying to find out who was Suicide. Because we found out later that the real Suicide got cold cocked and beat up. Seeing the real Suicide with Bully Ray was nice to see. It was kind of hard to... They couldn't have put a mask on him to keep his mystique. But doing what they did, I can understand they just wanted to put a face on him, make him more... give him a more human feeling. But I thought they could have put a mask back on him, even if he had to wear his regular clothes. It's important to keep the guy's mystique up, but they didn't do that. Throughout the night, we were trying to figure who he was. I had a feeling it could have been AJ, it could have been Austin Aries. I wasn't sure which one it was. I know AJ's bigger than Austin Aries, so I was thinking it might be Austin Aries. And I was hoping it wasn't one of the heel twins, either Garrett or Wes. But when we found out that night that it was Austin Aries, it makes perfect sense. You want to surprise people and give Bully Ray a very credible threat after what happened in the first matches of the Bound for Glory. And I will be getting the gut check in a moment. Seeing Austin Aries in this position is good, because even though he is still in the Bound for Glory series, he now has option C, which guarantees him a shot. But that's at Destination X, I believe. That's when he has to cash it in, and then he has to wait until Bound for Glory. But this is very good, because if he does option C, that leaves a slot open for Bound for Glory, so a Crimson could slide into it, or Matt Morgan could slide into it. Option C doesn't take Austin Aries out of the picture. It gives him the option to either be in Bound for Glory or to do the option C. I believe it's going to be option C. This is what I believe. And that is great. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about, where I could have said earlier, is gut check. Adam, what is the guy's name? Orion? Sorry. Adam Orion. And we got Rain Howard. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Just tell me below if I got them wrong. I have to say Orion's video package wasn't that great. It felt very choppy to me. But Howard's package was much more better and more defined. I felt he was better talking than Orion was. Now, the match itself, I felt Orion was way too stiff. And I was surprised that he won. Now, I do know that people have been trying to bring him up so he could get the gut check challenge, that they voted for him on TNA's website. But I felt the better one that worked that match was Howard. Howard wasn't great by any standard. I saw that it just looked, Orion looked very stiff. You tell me, when he had to hit the mat sounded really loud when he hit the mat. It wasn't just because he was heavier. It just felt like he was too stiff. That's how I felt about it. He felt very stiff and very green. And I felt maybe Howard was a little more refined. Maybe you guys tell me below who you felt should have won that match. It doesn't mean that Orion's going to get the contract, but who won the match to your perspective? Was it Howard or was it Orion? I felt that it should have been Howard. He had the better video package, and I felt as in the match, he felt better in the match. So let me make sure I didn't forget anything. No. So how do I rate this show? A B-. It wasn't that great by any standard, but it was pretty good. But seeing how lacking the tag teams is, because you got to have Jesse and Robbie E do the jobs now, to have a feud with the tag team champions who need credible feuds. They need bad influence. They need dirty heels, and they can't get it. They're worse than stereotypicals. I'm sorry. Jesse Goddard and Robbie E are total jobbers. They're worse than stereotypicals unless they structure them right. So this is my feeling about it, and I hope you enjoyed the Zane's View. Subscribe and comment to my channel. I will be doing a debate of the week. I might get it up this night or tomorrow. So this debate of the week is going to be a bit of a surprise. You guys tell me how you feel about it, and you guys have a good night.